Hi everyone, it's me, Oxy. So today I'm busy building the GF13-017NJ2 from what I can only assume is Mobile Suit Gundam. See, I already have one from the show Mobile Suit Gundam, but I picked up another High Grade Gundam building kit because, honestly, since I did this at Comic-Con, this has been a low-key obsession with myself, and I love the idea of building them with little plastic bits. Right over here you'll notice that one of the hands is missing and that it is already open, because I did just crack this one open to see like what I could use to cut it and how the cuts look before I got these. But more than that, all of these are still sealed completely. But yeah, that's enough explaining. Let's get to it. Yeah, mistakes were made. You'll see that all of the text is in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese, let alone read it. I speak it in the sense that I can say hello, and that's about it. Okay, let's see. Pretty sure this was intended to be folded like this. Thankfully, due to the nature of the instructions, I was still able to, for the most part, discern what I needed to do and at which step it needed to happen at, because, thankfully, there were all sorts of icons and little visual indicators that didn't require any knowledge of reading the Japanese alphabet. So, using that, and also with just a little bit of common sense, I was able to discern what parts needed snipping, what stickers needed applying, when they needed applying, and what parts to use. Ever so slightly on the hand there. So yeah, new tool, so we'll see how this goes. And now we get into what is pretty much the bulk of the Gunpla Kit build. Now, I'm not actually that well versed in the history of Gunpla, or even the history of the Bandai toy company that was responsible for licensing, creating, and then manufacturing these for the history of the hobby. So I'll have to just give that a bit of a Google as we proceed here to give some relevant information. But for the meantime, I figure I'll just touch a little bit on the experience of the build, sort of what trials and what sort of tricky moments I had to deal with while building this. Because admittedly, this was my first high-grade Gunpla kit that I'd ever assembled. The one that I did showcase in the beginning of this video, the one that I'm going to call the Hero Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam, because I just can't remember the name off the top of my head at the moment, was what they call an entry grade, but the box at the same time also refers to it as the workshop grade kit. And on top of all of that, there were other people who have not only assembled other Gunpla kits previously, helping on the team, but, the instructions were a lot more simple and down to earth. They required not even the cutter that I was using here, so it was all assembled by hand there. And they even had a couple of the weathering markers, as they say, to add details of scratches, dirt, and muck, etc. on the supposed frame of your Gundam, just to make it look a bit more weathered and like it had been battle hardened, etc. But I don't have any of that, because as I'm sure you can see by my very basic setup here, I am still very much new to the Gunpla hobby as a whole, and this is also the first plastic assembly kit that I had ever built since I was a 6 or 7 year old, when I built some other fighter jet and then a model of the Titanic, all with the help of my grandfather. So this was just a nice way for me to go and re-explore something that I did as a kid. As an adult, just get into it and really just sit down and relax. Because I must say, even though I seem very uncertain of what's going on here, frequently checking the instructions, making sure I'm getting the orientation of the parts right, worried I'm clipping the wrong parts at the wrong time, even when I first started out, it really, once you get into a rhythm, is just something you can just sit back and relax while doing. I don't know if you can see it there, but in the little top right of the screen, you'll see my television screen flashing every so often. That is because as I was watching this, I mean, as I was building this, I was actually watching some other video from Scott the Woz and his team. I think they were playing Super Mario Party or some such, one of the Mario Party games. And I was just sitting there, had that on as background noise, a bit of music, and I was just assembling the Gundam, just going through it, looking back and forth at the instructions every so often, and just figuring it out and just piecing it together, which I must say was also terribly, terribly satisfying. It came to the point where eventually I was like, you know, I am really upset that some of the footage corrupted, as we will see a little bit later on. But some of the footage of the rest of the build corrupted, so I ended up needing to restart the recording 2 separate times and don't have the entirety of the build here, which admittedly is a very much a beginner's mistake here by me, because, you know, I didn't foresee it, I didn't plan for it, and admittedly when I hit record, it was pretty late at night. My phone wasn't the most charged. I threw a cable onto it hoping it would last throughout the recording session, but then when I looked again, it had been like 2 hours that I'd sat down and been building it for, so I don't really think I could have anticipated that well. But over here we can see that the backplate of the jetpack for the Gundam is starting to take shape now. These are like wings or little fins that attach there, and you'll also see there I was doing a little bit of a clipping on it because there were these weird little white sprue pieces on the tips of some of those wings that I was also staring at and looking at for a very long time, uncertain as to whether they should stay or get clipped off, which is also why I ended up looking at the instructions for so long, trying to discern if I should cut those pieces off or not, which, yeah, admittedly is quite funny. And you'll also see frequently I go back and forth along the lines that I cut the part off of the sprue with, just because sometimes I wasn't getting a perfectly straight or clean cut off of it with these clippers. Not because they're imprecise or anything, but just because I am new to the hobby and I'm the imprecise one when it comes to this. So every so often I'm just checking the seams where they were molded onto the sprue, clipping them a little bit flatter just to make sure that they line up right. And here we can see some of the first stickers of the build, and let me tell you, if you thought Lego stickers were a pain in the ass, you haven't seen anything yet. The stickers on these are goddamn tiny. They're the most frail, fragile, flimsy little stickers you will ever have to deal with in any form of like creative or like hand-driven, like doing stuff with your hands hobby. That's why you'll see eventually I get fed up with just trying to do it with my fingers and fingernails, and I eventually get a toothpick to help me like take the stickers off of the sheet cleanly, but also to help with their application as well, because usually they were going in places that had like little grooves in the part itself to help them sit like more flush and have less risk of them peeling off and the like. So here I'm just busy fitting some of the stickers for the main jetpack bit. Well, I have made some progress since we last spoke. I have actually managed to get this done so far. I was actually recording part of that, but the audio corrupted. So, and the, well, not the audio, the file was, the video file was corrupted. So, forgive me for that. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's continue. So, thanks for mentioning the corrupted footage there, past Oxy. So, present Oxy here with the information about the Gunpla Hobby on my screen next to me from gunpla101.com. Definitely not sponsored, but I just figured I should bring up some history and information about the hobby just to have something interesting and informative to mention about it. So, as we may or may not know, the first ever Gundam series was called Mobile Suit Gundam and first aired in Japan in 1979. Less than a year later, the world's first Gunpla Kit was released, and for about 30 years now, give or take, people have continued to enjoy this hobby, so it's very long-standing, which I actually did not know. Here are some interesting milestones in Gunpla's decades-long history. For one, the word Gunpla was coined at the same time as the first kit was created. Much like the word cosplay, it's a Japanese amalgamation of two English words. one part being Gundam and the other being plastic, as in a plastic model. However, it is noted that most English speakers like myself will also use the word a Gundam model or refer to it as a Gundam model instead of a Gunpla, but the technical term is Gunpla just because it's shorter and apparently rolls off the tongue better. Not that I knew that. The first Gunpla model that was ever released came out in July of 1980 and cost about 300 yen at the time, which was equivalent to about $3 or so. And obviously it was a kit for making the very first Mobile Suit Gundam model, also known as the RX something or other, or as I call it, the Hero Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam. Some of the earliest Gunpla kits released between the years of 1980 and 1989 and are nothing like the Gunpla that we see and build today. Instead of snapping together using plastic parts, you would have to glue them together with a plastic cement, and even more tricky to the matter, they were all released in one color, so you'd have to paint your parts first. At the end, you'd end up with a rigid, hardly posable model as your reward, and these are called first grade kits or FG kits today. The first high grade kit was released in 1990 and cost about 1,000 yen, which was about $10 at the time. As would become a tradition, the first model of any grade was the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Today, high grade is synonymous with cheap and easy, but in 1990 it was considered a much more detailed and posable grade of Gunpla. Now we're moving on up the ladder. The first Master Grade kit was released in 1995 and cost about 2,500 yen, or $25 at the time. It is the first time the original Mobile Suit Gundam was named correctly, as the RX-78-2. The grade was originally designed to be used for a select number of models to commemorate Gundam's 15th anniversary, but the popularity of these more accurate models is why they're still being manufactured to this day. Stepping up further along the list, the first perfect grade Gunpla appeared in 1998 and cost about 12,000 yen, or about $120 at the time. Today's perfect grade makes this look cheap, often topping about $200 in today's money or more. Perfect grades come in 1 to 60 scale and include so much detail that they can take several weeks to build. Sometimes they even come with wiring for LEDs and or other electronic features. In July of 2009, Gundam built a 1-to-1 scale RX-78-2 to commemorate Gundam's 30th anniversary. It's true, it is the full 60-foot model, and they actually mentioned that in the box for the one I built at Comic-Con, so that was fascinating. And then came the real grade, which recently showed up in 2010, which was a step up in realism. Alright, so at some point, once again, my footage corrupted again, and I'm sorry for that. But here is how the progress is looking so far. We've got a set of legs. We're starting to put together the midsection. We've got the body. We've got the jetpack thingy. And then we got these like guards here. So things are looking good. We are starting to make some very good progress here, and it is starting to come together lovely. So now if we look even further into the information that Gunpla101.com provides, we can find various tutorials, guides, and pieces of advice on how to do several things to your Gundam, including how to do an initial build, how to create dynamic and very striking poses, how to mount the elevation plates, how to use silly putty for masking so that you can paint your models, how to paint your models, how to remove the seams of your models, what you can do if you lose parts, how to clean them, and many, many more things. But that is about all that I'd like to cover on that. Let's get back into the build itself. Now, you might notice, and I also had some text on screen show that the camera angle has changed, and that is entirely because my phone was dead and I needed the cable to be nearby. But as you can see, we've got most of the major components of the Gundam actually assembled, just pending a couple more parts for detailing and the final mounting points between the midsection, the lower legs, and the upper torso that was all assembled at this point. And this is the point where things really started to get a bit intense with the stickers, because I also realized I'd forgotten about a few and proceeded to mount them in their correct and relevant places later than I was supposed to, which was a bit of a challenge, admittedly. But all in all, as we come to the point where we're more or less wrapping up the build and the video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching through this far. I know this is very much out of line of what I've done for the previous 2 videos on this channel so far, so I want to thank you for sticking it through and showing an interest in it this far. As for plans for the channel going forward this year, a bit of consideration and with a little bit of what's been going on in my life, I am expecting to roll back to about a video every 2nd month, give or take, on this channel over here, just because recent ongoings have meant that I don't have as much disposable income towards going out and taking trips to do IRL hobbies and even pick up model kits and Lego kits for other hobbies as well. So it's just gonna be a little bit slower while I figure out some other alternative ways that I can continue making content on this channel in a way that not only matches the format but fits the flow, the vibe, and sort of the aesthetic that I was going for with exploring all sorts of different hobbies and activities. But don't worry, we'll get that sorted soon. But yeah, at that, I'm just gonna let you enjoy the last bits of the time lapse, and then of course, because I forgot it in the previous video, I apologize, I'm also going to let you enjoy the famous glam shot montage at the end. But yeah, this has been me, Oxy from the future, at the time of recording. Thank you so much, hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye for now.